I wanted to jump on today because I want to talk about cotted wool and what it is and how to sort of assess wool, assess wool, assess the strength, maybe measure the staple. There was somebody I talked to once and she didn't know what a staple was. So, we're all learning and a lot of people are brand new. So I thought I would do a quick review of sort of assessing fiber when you get it raw. When I get my fiber raw, I get some dirty stuff. And the reason I get some really dirty stuff is because I wrote a book, The Art of Washing Wool, Mohair, and Alpaca, and sometimes people will send me things because they don't know how to clean it well, and I say, send it to me. I want to try to clean this for you, and then I'll send them back a detailed review on how I cleaned it. So if you take the master scouring class and you're having issues, you can always send me a sample and I will assess it for you, scour it for you, send you back very detailed information about what I did to get it clean. This is a really dirty Lincoln, really dirty. I don't even think this shows how dirty this really is. So let me go to the overhead camera and show you exactly what I do. So hold on just a moment. So with this particular one, you're going to see that it's a little bit matted. Okay, it's a little bit matted, and they call that cotted. And sometimes it's due to health of the sheep or if it's really hot. So if you are a rancher or a sheep grower, please comment below some of the reasons that it might cot. It's not quite felted all the way on the body of the sheep. So watch, I can pull this apart. It's very compact, but I can pull it apart. So this is a little bit cotted. This is going to be really difficult to put through your carder because this is so compact, but the more I pull it apart, the airier this end is going to be. So it may not be a total loss. Now the way I pull apart locks, so say you want to pull locks, I start at the tips and I go down this way and I pull them apart. You may have a little fuzzy end. You could also do this after you scour. It may be a little bit easier doing it after you scour because there's not a lot of lanolin and dirt that's causing some friction between the locks when you pull it apart. So that's pulling locks. So let's say you want to wash and lock formation, that would be it. But it's pretty cotted. Now some people will take these cotted fibers and make rugs out of them because they're already kind of felted, but see, I can pull that apart. It's not, well, some of it's not a total loss. You just have to kind of see, but if someone says it's cotted, this is probably what they mean. And sometimes they'll say, hey, it's good for a rug because it's halfway there to being felted. All right, now, let me test the strength of a lock. So in my book, The Art of Washing Wool, Mohair, and Alpaca, I came across an article from a long time ago, and it talked about how they did not feel the ping test was accurate anymore, in the sense that when you ping a fiber, you're putting so much force through the lock that you may not get a true representation of how strong the lock is. So they came up with these machines that were called tensile force machines, and they use them in the industry today. So they will clamp a clamp on this side, they'll clamp a clamp on this side, and the machine will actually pull it apart and see how many pounds of force it takes to tear that staple. Now, that is a determination of how good the fiber is, and if it's going to be used for Italian suits or for cheap sweaters. The stronger the fiber, the better the fiber, and the better it's going to stand to a lot of wear and tear when it's made into a textile. So when I test a fiber, I may even pull it into smaller sections because it's going to be going into your carder or your combs or whatever in small sections. And I grasp each end and I pull it. Now, in my book, it'll tell you how many pounds of force, that may be appropriate for some fiber. Some fiber may break, and some fiber may do fine in a carder or on combs, but others will not. So this is a really strong fiber. This is the tip. I'm going to test the tip. It's not breaking. I'm going to test the base in case it's a ruing fiber, which means, or a ruing breed, which means it actually breaks at the base and you can pull it off the sheep. So when we talk about the staple length of a fiber, we're talking about the length of a lock. So that could be a lock. If you had a thicker piece, it could also be a lock. So that's just, they call it a lock. The staple length is the length of that lock of fiber, unstretched. So you don't want to stretch it. So if someone says, I have this staple length maybe 5.5 inches. So that's what they're talking about. They're talking about the staple length, unstretched, of a lock of the wool. Now, just to let you know that there can be different staple lengths among the fleece of an animal. So it's kind of like an average. Typically, if I see 5 inches here, I may see 4 inches somewhere else. There's not a huge variation, but there can be some variations in that. All right, now when we're talking about crimp, do you see the curves in that? So this gives me an indication that this is a coarse grade fiber, because when you go from a fine grade to a medium grade to a coarse grade, this crimp is really tiny in fine fibers. It gets a little bigger in mediums like Corriedale, and then in your long wools, it gets really big. It's almost a wave. And then when you go to your extremely coarse fibers, it's one big wave. So the crimp can give you a clue of what kind of or what grade of fiber it is. You cannot really tell what breed it's from, but you can certainly kind of guess what the grade is. And the grade of wool is going to be important when you scour. It's going to be important when you prep it. So it's really a good thing to know what your grades of wool are. All right. So it's also important to test the strength of your fiber before you scour it, because your water temperature choices, your soap choices, there's other things that can break down this protein fiber and cause this fiber to break after it's scoured. So it's really important to test the strength of your fiber before you scour, and then test it again after. But if you follow the fundamentals and guidelines in my book and in my masterclass, you won't have any issues at all. And if you're having issues now, you may want to look into that. I think the Kindle's like $9. It's going to be the best $9 that you ever spent, because you probably have wasted, well, I know I have. I'm going to talk for myself. I have wasted hundreds of dollars on wool that I have scoured inappropriately. I've ruined, I felted, I messed it up. I ended up with a neppy mess when I carded it, and I didn't know why. So it really pushed me to research why things like this happened. All right, so there you go. That's kind of a down and dirty little thing on wool locks, and I hope you learned something today. And head on over to CamajFiberArts.com and check out the classes that I have, the book, fibers, all sorts of fun stuff. Oh, and I have an article in Spin-Off this month talking about water and scouring. It's going to really open your eyes if you don't know much about what the role water plays in scouring, which is everything, because if you're using the aqueous way of scouring, which means fiber in a bucket or a bowl of water, that's the aqueous type of scouring. Water has so much to do with it, and soap and pH, but water is so important, and you will be hopefully pleasantly surprised. All right, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.